When you're an animator, it doesn't matter, you can do the most handsome woman, you can draw her, and you have your style, and it's so pretty. No, in Japanese animation stories, you have to take into consideration that they come from Japanese-speaking people. How Japanese people think and talk, it's not just about the change of language, it's also how they communicate, how they view the world. That's what's different in anime too, how they think and how they transmit that.
Hey there, and thank you for tuning in. We're excited to bring you another great conversation today. If you like the show and want to support us, please hit the subscribe button so we can keep bringing you great content week after week. And if you're feeling extra generous, give this video a like and share your thoughts and comments down below. Thank you so much. And now, let's get into it. Welcome to Unpacking Japan. I'm Toby and sitting here today with Mar. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're animation director of your own studio that you founded here in Tokyo, Japan, Maru Exposito.
Maru Exposito, that's right.
Where you direct a lot of animations for many different clients around the world. And
Yes.
We're going to talk about the animation industry and what it's like to create animation from scratch and your journey here. So let's start at the beginning. What got you interested in Japan in the first place?
Anime. So I'm the classic girl that would just go home from school, get a TV, get a paper, and just have fun. Eating chocolate as well, but you know.
So you were already drawing, right? So you started
I
watching
never
anime?
stopped drawing. You know when you give kids that you don't know what to do with them because they're bored, you get them a paper and a pen, and they start drawing, and most kids stop at some point. I didn't.
Wow. So from a young age, just like you were captured by these characters that were appearing on TV.
Yeah.
Any anime in particular that kind of resonated with you, or it didn't really matter?
I watch anything and everything, but the ones I repeated the most would be The Lion King, so Disney ones. And then as it developed into more into anime, that I didn't know what it was at the moment, but I would say Caricature Sakura, some shoujos, anything with horses, things like that.
When you watched those, did you kind of already make the connection with Japan, or was it just...
Absolutely not. I think until I was 11 or 10 years old, I thought it was China was all Asia. So I first had to learn things at school of how the world works. And then I started identifying. For me, it was just pretty drawings that tell stories. And I want to be a princess like her and all those things. So
when did it kind of start coming to your mind, the idea of, oh, Japan, like I want to go there. They do a lot of interesting animations.
So let me think. Because as I mentioned, it never exactly started. But I guess as a child, I wanted to draw animals. So I wanted to translate it well in English, how it was mistaken. I wanted to be a drawer of quiet animals, like calm animals. So that was my role. But people told me, or actually not my family, but around me, they told me, you cannot make money and you cannot work making drawings. So I started going to other routes. I discovered at some point what Japan is, that they have this specific style of animation and that I actually liked either Disney or that style of animation. But I said, I cannot work like that. So I went into other routes, like maybe translation, so I can read the mangas before anyone else. I'm sure no one has thought about that before. Brilliant idea. So I went that direction, but I also wanted to draw. So I went from translator to let's do advertisement because they pay you to do creative video things. Let's do film because it's video. Oh, it's video, it's film. Why real people? Let's animate. So I went to drawing again, basically. So it was trying to deny myself of my real dream, but actually was always there.
And you came full circle.
I came the full circle.
In 2014,
Yes.
you moved to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a plan in mind? Did you know I'm going to Japan, this is what I'm going to do? Or was it just like, I need to go there, I want to explore?
Okay, so there I was still denying myself a bit. Because my idea back then would be, I want to go to Japan and I will work in an anime studio, existing one. I will design characters, I will animate the characters I love, maybe I get to anime and series from authors I respect. Still denying myself. What I really, really, really wanted to do was do my own stories. So I came here with the original, still in denial, role. I would go to a Japanese language school. That's how I started. Student visa, straightforward, have a part-time job. Draw my comic in the side because otherwise I couldn't be happy with drawing or creating. And at some point, talking with a friend, my friend was like, you're not being, he's an entrepreneur, and so he was really challenging me, like, you're not being honest with yourself. You're not letting yourself do what you really want to do. You don't want to work for all these companies. You want to do your own thing. Why not? And he kept pushing me, and at some point, it's like, yeah, why not? So that's, my plan shifted. But it always was going into that direction. Learn Japanese, get into an animation company.
So before we dive into how you actually started Maru Exposito, I want to go back to when you arrived in Japan. Mm-hmm. How was that change for you? You were from Spain and Barcelona, and you suddenly arrive in Tokyo. How did you adapt to life here?
I was very lucky / brave at some point. When I was in Spain, let's say my first year at university, where I did a 4-year degree. So the first year in the train, I met Japanese. There was some Japanese person the other side of the train. And I wanted to learn Japanese. So I went and asked them. Long story short, we became friends, and they sort of adopted me as their granddaughter. So I went with them to live in their home. Someone who I met in Spain sort of helped me do this transition. They hosted me, and I didn't feel like I was coming alone. Even my family met them. Like, they went to my wedding. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's such a nice story, to meet someone on a train and you kind of connect, and then they host you here in Japan.
Yes.
So you had a starting point when you arrived. You had like an anchor already.
Exactly. So one of them both spoke Spanish, one more than the other. So I was never alone, really. Like, at some seasons, I would be at their place living alone. But most of the time, like, I had these first 6 months of, I'm not completely out in the woods situation.
You studied Japanese at the beginning, right? You went to language school?
Yes. I also studied Japanese back in Spain. So I also didn't come from the direct line. I came from somewhere in between N4 and N3, I believe, from the Noken. Yeah.
When you arrived in Japan?
Yes.
Okay. And then you kind of pushed this further and pushed it further. And then you have this entrepreneur friend who keeps pushing you. You're working in marketing. You're doing something that is not really fulfilling you, and you have to get started.
Yes.
Had you tried working for some animation studios and to kind of actually go into that industry that you had dreamed about?
Yeah, I wanted to. So that to follow the story, I studied Japanese in Japan, and then I saw that I could not just go into an animation company. I need some training. I don't know how to animate yet. I may draw a lot, but I don't know their structure. I don't know how, like, the vocabulary of the industry and everything. So after that, I signed up for a
technical school?
Yes, Semongako. Yes, correct. For a 2-year, 2D animation course, like pure anime taught by Japanese people who's actually working in this industry. Most of my teachers were double duty.
So the teachers at this animation Semongako, they are both professionals in animating things?
Most of them.
And then they teach part-time, so to say.
Yes.
Interesting.
So I entered there. So the school technically would train me to then enter to animation studio. Actually, they train you just enough that you can enter, because it's supposed that after you enter to the studio, they will keep teaching you. So it's more like, creating your entry point. You're not a full animator when you finish that school.
How about when you enter the school? Like, I'm terrible at drawing, but if I want to become an animator, can I
go
apply
for it?
And they would take me? Or do you need to show a sort of portfolio already and show some skills and ability to draw characters, to draw background?
I guess it depends on the school, but my idea is that these schools are for people who just graduated from high school, so you don't have to have a portfolio. I went there with mine, and they were like, I was like, I brought my portfolio. Don't you want to see it? In my interview open campus thing, and they were actually impressed that I actually knew how to draw it. I mean, in my way, not what they later teach me. But you can, usually my class was half were just Japanese students, 1920s, either 19 or 20-year-olds that just graduated from high school, and the other half of the class were foreigners, mostly from all the other places from Asia. I was the only one from Europe, and that they were older because they had learned Japanese that just wanted to go to animation. And in most cases, some people would have had drawn on their own. That's why you go to the industry. If you go from zero and you expect to learn everything in 2 years, it will be very tough for you. But technically, yes, you can enter and you will learn a lot.
Interesting, yeah. 2 years is a very short period of time to learn to animate. What is typically included in this kind of curriculum? What do you learn there?
Okay, again, it will depend on the school, so I just can talk by my experience. But something I want to mention is that the entry points of the anime studios are quite already set up. So you can enter as the animator path, the background path, the production assistant path, or the editor path. The school will try to teach you to how to enter in one of these sections. You will take classes for everything. And for example, if you're more into the animation path and then you have your thesis in the last year, like the second year, and so on, maybe you'll try like animator role, so you can put in the portfolio and enter to the studio. If you want to go to the production path, you will enter there and go. But basically the curriculum is very by department focused. Like everyone will do background, everyone will do animation, everyone will learn about the history of animation. I'd say though, if not half, a lot of it is the animation department because that's the more popular. So a lot of hours are just drawing.
That's the dream of many, right? To be the next Hayao Miyazaki or have your own studio, which you're now realizing.
Yeah,
but
trying.
You're going through this Semongako, you
Yes.
go to class all in Japanese, you learn the basics and the process of animation, and you're supposed to be ready to join the animation studio at the end.
Yes.
So you're standing on the verge of graduation, and you're probably in the Shushoku Katsudo period, looking for a job in Japan. How was that?
And my friend is the one pushing me.
So that was a time when he was
it was someone a bit earlier-ish in that way. But during that period of studying Japanese and learning to animate in that school is when I learned about my own values and how if I enter an animation studio, how even if it's my favorite studio, I don't have a lot of power on what I will be drawing. And I really believe in the power of stories, that they impact people. That's what any story is about. Like they tell you something, they make you think. And some stories, even from my favorite authors, like some stories I really like, they have some messages and some, they have some aftermath that I may not agree with. And if I have to spend so many hours drawing, which is hard, and work like that, I didn't want it to do with someone else where I had to draw a lot for something that maybe I don't believe in, or that I believe it's harming the world in any way. Like, maybe I'm going too far, but that's how, well, that's actually how I think. So in those moments, he was challenging me like, you want to do your own thing. Obviously, I could enter the studios, draw wherever they asked me to do, learn, and then do my own thing, or become the boss of that place. I don't know, their roots. But he kept challenging me with that. So when we got to that point of Shushoku Katsudo, like, okay, you have to find a job, you do the training. Not my most humble thing, but I was top on the class of my grades, both 2 years. I got the second best prize in the whole school of how many students? I don't know. Hundreds of students. Yeah, 100 students. Like I would have gotten a good job technically. Very limited, I must say, because you have to get a visa to enter to these companies, and many studios, if they're not big enough, they will not sponsor you. However good you are, you're still someone that will need a bit more training, a bit of, oh, what if she leaves? Whatever.
Or what if she can't communicate
But
correctly?
She cannot communicate, but she gets pregnant, I don't know, like, or whatever happens, right? So technically, on paper, I could have gotten a job in an animation studio, but I decided by myself, I think it's worth it to do it my own way. And by then I would have my comic was already started and I wanted to continue that. So what I did is I selected the job I was doing part-time, or I was doing something related to marketing, and I asked for that, can I do this full-time? While in my own time at home, I will pursue design, doing comic, animation, something. So that's how I went to full-time into something completely different. However, knowing that in that place, I was safe and I could learn things that were valuable. Because if I want to make my own company, project management, leading a team, marketing, things like that are actually quite useful, and I'm using it. So that's how I completely escaped the step where, so Hayao Miyazaki is they're recruiting for their last film. There's an open position. On paper, you could get it. And no. I said no, because it's too risky.
So you kind of discovered in that process of going through your studies some very strong values that you wanted to stand by when working.
Mm-hmm.
So you went a different path where you knew you could go along with your values and you could start something on the side.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the process like for you now to actually get your own company established and launch it here in Japan?
Okay, so there's the logistics side and the actual creative side. In the logistics side, I was lucky that during all that process, I also fall in love with my husband. And he provides a spouse visa. So that means that while I was in the other company, I could leave that job without having to look for something else and figure out how do I keep in Japan. Another thing is that with that visa, I can also work as many hours as I want. So what I did is gradually I left. So first I was working full-time there. Then I worked part-time there, where I started saying, I really need to start. If I don't draw more hours, if I don't put more hours animating and making my own company, this will never happen. It's too slow. I really exploded one day. I started crying while it was a drama. Let's leave that for another time. But I said, okay, let's do animation. So I left there like part-time. And the other time I would say, I'll do my portfolio. Let's see if a client happens. I don't know. Have some savings. I can last for a while like this. And a client happened really fast. They asked me for a music video, and myself and I think it was me and just one friend at that moment that we did it all together. And from then it's been looking for other clients that they want. I discovered that there's demand. They want animation, but it's not easy to find a studio to do that, and that they can communicate in that case, Spanish was
lucky coincidence.
Yeah, coincidence from Mexico, but it was in Spanish, and I can communicate well. My price was fine for them.
Isn't it always when you get started? You don't know where to price yourself.
It was better than doing a portfolio. It was a portfolio that was already,
being paid
a
for.
piece being paid for. Part of it, and it served as an example. I worked for them, and the music video was, well, the music band was already a hit. So their music video was like it had a lot of view. It did really well. So that's how it followed. Basically, it's been growing from there.
So on the logistics side, everything was taken care of. And then on the technical side, you basically had to build a portfolio. You put a website where you had your portfolios there, and you kind of advertised it a little bit on social media until you found a client. What about some procedures to kind of establish your company, so to say, in Japan as an animation studio? Is there something specific that needs to be done to register it?
It has to, and it hasn't been done yet, exactly. If we're technically speaking, I'm just a freelancer. Okay. I'm a solo proprietor, Kojin Jigyo, tal. And then when a project comes in, I basically have a network of other workers, so I freelance other freelancers. When I communicate to the world, I say I'm a studio, because in practicality, that's what I am. A lot of the freelancers repeat different projects. I do have a person that's working in marketing, like let's say every month, and it works as a studio, but technically it's just a freelancer outsourcing my resources. And this got into a project where the latest project, more than 30 people participated. So it grew enough that I can just say, yeah, I'm a freelancer, I do anime. No, it's a team, it's a studio.
I feel like, especially in that industry, it seems to be a sort of growing trend, simply because the skills required to put this kind of video together are so diverse and so specialized. Not every project will require a specialist on each thing, right? So if you're a studio and you have them all hired, you also need to have the work and the project.
Yes, they have to ask for the same thing. Like, for example, one studio requires magic, requires effects. The other project, I don't know what I said, but basically one project requires magic and effects. The other project requires a lot of fighting underwater. So really, if it's just like per project, 1 or 2 animators are needed, or 5 or 7, I need to select the people that will be best for that project. Let's not talk about the availability as well of these people.
So there are specialists for like underwater fight scene, for example, and specialists for magical fight scenes.
Absolutely. Or just people who likes it better and will do a better job because they haven't figured out yet, but they love this type of body fighting underwater and floating things. Yeah, I mean, I like animating hair and flowy cloaks and skirts. It happens.
You said that you wanted to establish the studio to kind of do work that represents your values.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about this and what kind of work your studio does?
Yeah, so at some point, I started like listing all my values, the things I believe a company should work like. And I make quite a long list. And from that list, I call the public values and internal values. None of them are, let's say, private or secret. Like the internal values I could share and so on, but they're more related to the stuff. So like, okay, so we work like, I don't care if your gender, your sexual orientation, I don't care where you're from, like anything else. I just care that you have the skills, that you're reliable, and I can legally hire you. Like everything will be fine in terms of paperwork. I don't care about anything else. This is one of the values. But what I advertise, the public values, is related to what we produce and how we produce it. That is related to stories, and that all message, like all stories that we create has a message. And that's what we were talking about in the past. Like I believe that stories have a very impactful impact. Yay. I wanted to make sure that we always select projects that will lead the viewer to a direction that I'm okay with. Like ethically, it feels good. Right? Okay. Maybe the message is just put the trash in the trash bin. Good. Makes
don't
good
leave
society.
It on the street.
Yeah, don't leave it on the street. It's good. So messages are more like big and life-changing, perhaps, that I feel good working this project. That's also a challenge because obviously I have a certain amount of demand, and sometimes I get asked to do things that I'm not okay with.
Can you give an example?
Some things are just pure stylistic, like, I don't know, maybe some things about zombies, and I'm like, it's not my thing. Fantastic for people who love them. It's not my thing. I will not have fun doing this. I will pass. Other stories, I see a lot of, let's say I get a lot of demand for stories with, how would I say it? Nightlife entertainment.
Okay.
I will not go deep into that, but let's say it's something that now I'm struggling with English.
It doesn't align with your values, and it's not something you kind of want to portray.
Like it doesn't relate to me. Like it feels tricky. Sometimes not that I'm against it. It's just like I'm not living this type of life. I don't know how to put that in a way that will enlighten good mental health for them, or it's not sustainable. So that's just one of the values that I thought during that period of time, and I try to keep that for my projects because my goal would be to do original stories. Then, of course, they will align with my values. But for now, until I can do that, what I can do is filter. So my values are my filters.
I think one of the things you mentioned on your website is also you want to have projects that have closure.
Yes.
Why is that important to you? And what exactly do you mean by the video or the story needs to have closure?
Yes. So there's two things here. One of them, and it's difficult to evaluate a story if I don't know what it's ending. So maybe you have experience watching series that started very interestingly, and in the end, you don't know what happened. It's like, that's not where I thought we were going in the beginning. Not because it's not like it was surprising. Endings should be surprising to a degree to be interesting, but it's like they lost their way. And it feels like I lost my time with this. I put so much love into these characters. I care for them so much, and now the ending just doesn't make sense to me. That's easier to happen when you don't have an ending selected. So I'm not talking about short stories, it's easier because then it's likely that the person has thought about the ending. Longer stories are fine as well, but I need to know where things are going. So everything is leading to that point. Now I'm going to another, I think I'm messing a bit with the answer, but basically there's another thing which would be filler content. So here I'm respecting the viewer's time. yes, bonus stories are fun, but it's easier to get lost and to create tangents that then are not satisfying or that are consistent with the message if you start trying to make the story longer and longer just for the sake of, I don't know, it gives people jobs, it's money, we want more time with these characters. So two things to be careful with. Longer stories, like it's likely that you still don't know the end, and it may end up somewhere that's not satisfactory in terms of ethically or message or how the viewer feels. And longer stories also tend to have to be long just because of the filler content. That also feels unsatisfactory at some points. Like, nothing happened in this episode. I was waiting 1 week for this.
So now let's say you have a client reaching out and they have a project that is like, oh, this is something I want to do. You recently did a very cool project for Zen Market, which are here behind in our offices, which is basically our characters, our mascots, going through different experiences.
Yeah.
We will not spoil the details of the story themselves.
Watch it later.
You can watch it later. But I'm curious, what is the process on your side when you receive a request like this for a client? How do you go from, initial contact to finished product? And how long does this take?
Okay, I thought you were about to ask, but there's no ending. And I wasn't ready to reply something, which is sometimes there's no ending for the whole story because it's not about the ending. It's about the story inside. Think about The Simpsons, think about Crayon Shin-chan, think about Doraemon. The stories, each episode has its own conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be a final, happily ever after, they got married and blah, 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 whatever. That's one thing that you didn't ask me, but I wanted to say.
An episode on its own can have an ending, and that's fine.
Exactly. That story has its own conclusion already, and it feels good, and it doesn't feel like we need more. For me, that's an ending. So that's something that we need also to consider. It's not that I need to know, what will happen to this character in... can we continue the story? Sometimes yes, but it's the thing. This thing we work together with, actually it should be online, but basically it has a number of episodes, and I know what would happen in the number of episodes. We didn't do the first episode without knowing what would happen in the fifth. We knew everything from the beginning, and everything was self-conclusive. So that was really important. Now I'll go back to the question you actually asked me, which was the process from receiving a project from a client until we deliver. So the first thing is I check the client. Someone came up to me with a script. So I can give specifics, I guess, for this project, right? So in this case, ZenMarket came to me and they asked me, we want to do maybe 5 episodes with this script that I have here in a spreadsheet, more or less. Script was character goes here, runs, fights, delivers package, everyone's happy, ending. Very, very structured.
Rough draft.
Yeah, rough draft, which is fantastic because it gives me a lot of room to play with. The first step, however, was to check. Okay, who's this company? Who's the target audience? Who are their clients? What do they do? How do they work? How do they breathe? How do they communicate? Checking their ads. I had a tour in the office. A digital tour in the office.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, I asked for videos of the team. Actually, I don't know, either it's having fun or working, presenting themselves. So I need to see what are the vibes. So then my story will reflect their brand. That would be very important, even before touching anything on the script, because my job was to do the storyboard for that. Now, a storyboard is when you get the script and you made some sketches, sometimes more or less detailed, that tell you better what will be on screen, so you can picture already what's going to happen, right? Someone enters to the room, so you see a door opening, and then the person is looking around, so you have a shot of the person. That's a storyboard. I wanted to mention that. So first task is doing a storyboard. And they commission only for the storyboard.
Okay.
Now, this storyboard phase is very important because without knowing what I need to draw, I don't feel like I could. Some people do it, but I don't feel I can budget or tell how long it's going to take. I need to see how many drawings we'll need, how many people on the team, which specialists will we need? Do we need audio? Do we not need audio? How many voices will I have to request? So first, I researched the client, I saw the script, and tried to put it together into a storyboard that I believe would reflect better the brand of the client, would reach the goal. Like, okay, this time we need to show a story where this character solves things for this other character. Well, so Boxhead, a guy finds a object that Sora, another character, is looking for, right? So I got lost in my own thoughts.
So you have these two characters, Boxhead
Yes.
and Sora, and you
Yeah.
have this brief, rough draft, and you have to
Yes.
create a storyboard, and
Yes.
you kind of
Thank you.
lay this out.
Yes. So I made these storyboards, and then I can tell, okay, making this storyboard into animation will be this much. You can now use this storyboard with another company if you'd like to. Like, it's a storyboard, it already works as one part of the process. Or if you go with me, it will take this long, it will be this much, this many resources.
Mm-hmm.
Another proposal. Now, if they say yes, which they did, we may also like make some changes to the story. Like, okay, we like all this, but we need this character to also do this or say that. The tagline will change. How many times there's things that were updated during?
Yeah. How many revisions have you had to this storyboard after it was kind of originally given the green light to continue?
So the storyboard, not much, I say, because I think a couple times. Because usually I do a very sketch-like storyboard, which I present just by voice in a meeting. So I'm explaining, I'm not drawing details. Like, okay, here she's doing this, and maybe you see like a very skeleton-like character doing like this, and I'm saying, she's saying hi, and you believe that thing, it's saying hi. So it's very specific, and that, because it's very easy to like remake, you have like, that's the most important, most like revision, where they check the story really. I remake that, and maybe then we'll just tweak some things in the second revision when I clean up to a level that my team will understand what's going on without me having to explain anything. If the storyboard doesn't explain by itself, it's not a storyboard yet. Shouldn't need me explaining it me behind. So there's like these two stages. One, when we actually talk about, okay, let's change things that are somewhat script relevant or visually important, and then I do a cleanup that maybe it's like, oh, but now that I see it here on screen, moving, because we put it into an animate, which is a video storyboard. So putting all the boards in a video with the timing that you imagine that thing is going to take, more or less, because sometimes in screen would be super quick, but because it's a storyboard, it's too quick, so you have to extend. So in that moment, the client may still say something, some changes, but yeah, I say a couple revisions is usually enough in that stage.
And up until that point, you're still kind of by yourself, and you do most of the work. And then once a client approves, and you know, okay, to do this, I will need all of these people, and then you go and look for all of these
Yes, but usually, because that would be a lot of work and waiting, when I'm in the storyboard, I'm already feeling how many people I may need. So I'm already start contacting the people that, okay, so we'll need so many animators. I'm gonna check on the people I know if they're available, right? So I'm still not signing contracts or anything with them, but I'm like already
checking availability, who's gonna be there.
Or like, oh, I think they will ask me for the audio. Let me check with the audio person. Are they available? We'll have to look for someone new. Nothing's clear, but hey, do you want to do something that will be this difficult and things like that.
What are the main stages after that? You have a story, you have the storyboard, you know who you're working with. What are the main 3, 4, 5 stages that you have to go through to get the final animation?
Okay. I call that part wholly just production, okay? Because you're producing the animation from the storyboard to the final video. Inside that, there's actually pre-production, production again, and post-production. The pre-production stage that technically should include script storyboarding is what I would say is finishing up the recruiting of the people while designing the characters, designing the props, making, okay, which colors are we going to use more or less in these scenarios, like for the background, designing the world, things like that. Basically design for what we will need later, preparing samples of music, things like that. Production itself, it's when you're creating things that will be on screen or on your ears later, which is making the actual music, recording the voices of the if there are voices and characters speaking, whatever, getting the SFX. SFX is a bit later sometimes. And the most, the thing that takes the most of the time, which is doing the animation, drawing character one by one, and the backgrounds also one by one and so on. Then we have post-production, which is once you have everything that you need to be put together, you put it together. So you get After Effects or the software of your choice, you get the music, match it all together, see that it works, make it prettier somehow, add effects, add gradients, add more sounds, things necessary, credits, with all these stages, check with the client back and forth with details, because if you catch something in pre-production, it's better to check. Imagine we had Box Head. It has round eyes, but for some reason I tended to make him more expressive with like oval eyes, like extended on the top. And that was caught in pre-production. If they had asked me to change that in the end of the design, that would have been a lot of resources, like repaint and redraw and re-put in the video. So there was also some back and forth.
A lot of things to kind of clarify at the beginning before you actually get working.
Yes, or even in the middle, because sometimes you, the client, everyone agrees, we'll do this in this cut. But when you put it together, it really doesn't work. It doesn't look good. So you have to be like, okay, let's decide. This doesn't work. What's the most efficient thing we can do right now with this? So
you have made 3 episodes for this kind of mini series, 5 episodes in the end. You went all the way to 5. I think I've seen 3 so far.
Yes, that's what's out as of this recording. Whoa,
so 5 episodes are each 1.5 minutes long?
No, it's 50 seconds, 50 something with the long credits.
So to get all of this done, how long did it take?
That's hard to say, because there were things going on in the beginning. There was slight overlapping with another project, because like the storyboard and so on, I was overlapping while I was finishing another project, for example. So let's say many months. Have I even counted it ever? More than half a year. I'll say that.
And for you as an animation director, then during this half a year, are you focused on this project alone? Do you handle other projects, or is it like, no, this is too much, I need to just coordinate this?
It depends on how heavy the project is. It depends on other areas of my life. I may also be doing live streams. Like last year, 2023, for example, I was doing live streams almost every Friday, other than doing animated projects, for example. That takes a lot of work, you will know, doing this type of creation. So it might be that sometimes I'm overlapping 2 projects. One the easier, one the longest, or basically when one is finishing, I'm starting the next one already. That would happen sort of often. Sometimes it takes a lot. Like for this project, there were many months that it was just this one, because we did things that we haven't done in the past that brought a lot of surprises that I have to deal with. But on the end of the day, it's like fulfill contract, do your best job. So.
You do this as a director based in Japan, but you coordinate with people that are all over the place.
Yeah.
How was that experience like for you to kind of suddenly have to coordinate such a big team that is established all over the place, different time zones, different...
How is it? Well, I am very strict in my routine. I really do my best so no one breaks my sleep time, because I know that I want to do this for a very long time, and to do this for a very long time, you need a healthy body and a healthy mind. So sleep times, working out, things like that, I don't want to skip them. So I need to be very strict and make sure that everyone will adapt sort of to me. Sadly, maybe there's someone very talented that would be fantastic, but they could only meet in midnight. It would not work. I'm so sorry. It's very sad. So being very strict with my own routine, which sometimes, because I have the tendency to be a perfectionist and want to do a good job, so I had the tendency to want to break it. So I'm super strict, because only sometimes when there's really a peak, there's a big obstacle, I will break it and I'll go back then to healthier lifestyle. So it's a lot of keeping my routine, keeping very open. That's something that my prior job prepared me for, because it was also an international company. So it taught me how to talk with people in other places in the world, how everyone communicates differently, not just because, we're all different individuals, but how different cultures communicate differently. And I don't know, I actually love it, having the opportunity to talk with the different people and so on.
I want to talk about the animation specifically. You said you originally got interested in drawing all of this, watching The Lion King and other animation. What are your inspirations today? Things that you're looking up to and you're like, oh, this is really cool. I like what they do.
Like new animes,
new or old that you still draw
Okay.
inspiration from?
Okay, I would say from growing, there's a lot of Clamp insights, Full Metal Alchemist, Rumiko Takahashi's work, Ghibli, Disney, as no surprise here, has a lot of still influence because that's how I grew with. But from the current animes, I would say that I also see a lot of new styles and things. When I'm watching an anime, I cannot turn off my analytical brain. So, for example, super like very stunning animes would be, new ones would be, for example, well, not that new now, Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan. Interesting, they have, do you know they have like double lines sometimes? Like, for example, if I'm drawing like the face surrounding and we want a thicker line, you cannot draw that just with a thick pencil, you know. You have to drag one line for the outside of one shape and the outside of the cheek. Like you have two lines.
Interesting.
Right, that's a lot of work. That's double the work, basically.
And they do that for these?
They do that for some animations. And it's hard, but it looks good. And they have to use it like they will not use it in every character, but someone who's far away, you cannot even just draw two lines, right? Because you have to think of width anyway. So I keep seeing things in new animes that I try to incorporate also. Must do like it, whether it's double lines, something's texture. Sometimes I get inspired by comic, right? I was doing a comic and so on. I was thinking I want the eyes to look really cool like my brush, because I have a brush when I do the eyes and I do like the pupils of the eyes. So in one of my projects, what I did is I got this inspiration. It's like, instead of, I cannot draw this texture every single time, because every time you draw it, the texture most likely will look different, right? Because the software will give you a different trace brush. Yes. So what I did is I created a file with only like several pupils, and with After Effects, we put that in the middle of the eye. And every time that the character moves, we've moved this pupil, we shrink it, we move it and so on, but it looks beautiful and it's still better than drawing it every time.
What are some of the unique things about Japanese animation that maybe makes it stand out and so different from the Disney movies we grew up with?
My belief is that something looks anime, not because it's made by a Japanese person, let's say, but because it follows a very strict pipeline. They have a very specific way to simplify work or to do very hard work as well. So, for example, you will see anime, especially the old ones, where they only move the mouth. Now, usually it's the mouth and the jaw as well, but that's a very anime thing. You look Western animation or other animation, usually they're moving their body all the time. It's something that's very classic in the pipeline. When someone speaks in this type of simple scene, you do it this way, and that's it. That's just how they do it. You have to consider that actually, surprise, I'm a freelancer freelancing others, but actually the animation industry, at least in Japan, is a lot of freelancers working for multiple of the studios at the same time. So they have to follow a way that's the same for every studio. So there's a very, very set and strict structure that works, because everyone does this the same. They all look the same. It's anime. If you try to copy it from the outside, you will likely try to invent things differently, figure it out differently, right? So if you're an animator and you want to do myself blinking, you will have these 4 frames, and it will be when the eye is here open, bit closed, and it may open already again or have a bit and go up again, like things like that. Like they decided where to move each thing. And it doesn't matter if you blink in Yu Hakusho, in Inuyasha, in Jujutsu Kaisen. Everyone blinks like that.
That's super interesting that it's kind of the same across the entire industry within Japan.
Exactly. I'm exaggerating now to make it clear. There's obviously variables, and some studios do things their way. There's also, it's not the same TV anime, which has certain budget and more freelancers. It's not the same for movies. Okay, Ghibli does things their own way. That's why you would say this is a Ghibli movie, because they keep their own pipeline, their own structure.
What are some of the other things that people may notice if they pay a little bit of attention to the anime they're watching that maybe you see as an animator?
Like, would you mean like what makes it an anime in Japan? More things that they can pay attention to. What I said was one thing, that they will stay, the body is static and they only move the mouth and the jaw, would be one thing. There's also a lot of things coming from the comic, like especially in the older mangas, like the big drop when they're like, there's a lot of Japanese communication style things that then they translate in certain ways in the anime, like the sweat, just like, it's just a drop sliding down, right? It's not even a sweat like following my shape. They just have a drop and they understand that, that person is nervous or ashamed or whatever.
Well, this little thing, the surprise.
Yeah,
the surprise.
Like,
shape.
You mean the bane?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did they banes? It's just like a square. It looks like a hashtag thingy. That's a very anime manga thing to do. I think this comes more from the comic, but it's like how they communicate in their own language is very specifically seen in the anime.
So when you're working as a freelance animator for these big studios, you have to learn this industry standard, and also you have to learn to draw characters and environments in the specific style of that anime, right? Because one person, let's take One Piece. Everyone knows One Piece.
Yeah.
Originally from Oda.
Yes.
San, and then many people now are drawing different episodes and different characters, and Luffy has probably been drawn by, I don't know, thousands and thousands of animators, but they all need to be able to do the character in the exact same style and make him look the exact same way in each episode.
Yes. So, two things here. A very good, talented animator needs to be able to adapt very well. Doesn't mean that they cannot, like when you're an animator, it doesn't matter you can do the most handsome woman, you can draw her and you have your style and it's so pretty. No, it needs to look exactly like in the cat before you. That makes you talented. That makes you good in animation industry. That's one thing. The other thing is that you're thinking that one person just draw it and it looks fantastic and they're good. Actually, no. You have to consider that there's many faces. If I am a junior animator and they give me Luffy, I will draw it. Then there will be a supervisor checking that the animation makes sense. Then there will be a person checking that the character fits proportions, and then will be another person. I think it's 3 levels. And now I would need to check. I don't know by memory. And there's like 2 to 3 to up to 4, I think. No, yeah, 4 other people that will draw over your drawing. And then you have to, in order, correct that drawing to make it look at par with everything else, because come on, it's Luffy.
Wow. So you basically get assigned a character for an episode or for a scene.
Or usually it's a set of cuts inside the scene. So let's say if it's anime, it's like 20 minutes and there's a little, I don't know, some 2 characters are talking on top of the ship and you get that scene. So it has consistency when they
So it's not even the whole episode.
Some people, some animes, like people get in charge of the whole episode, but still every cut, usually you have different people doing it. You have the key animator doing the big poses. Like if I'm saying hi, you have someone drawing this one and this one, and then someone else doing the one in the middle, and then someone doing like all the other drawings.
Wow.
So it's many people in one cut, but then one cut can be like one person could do all the key animation, all these key positions of the whole episode sometimes.
One anime episode is typically around, if you don't count the intro and
it's
outro,
20 minutes.
About 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And they come out weekly for most of them. So how many people does it take to make one anime episode?
It really depends on the anime.
Let's stay with the One Piece example.
You know what? I'm not sure I would know, but many. I'm not sure how they work. Each studio gives the work differently. But yeah, as I mentioned, for example, I know of Inuyasha. I know someone who worked in all the key animation in one episode. And then I'm guessing they would have, I don't even know, like someone doing Nigen, like second key animation. I cannot reply. I would give you a very out of the
But a lot of people, basically, more than people.
More than
probably,
most likely you were imagining. I mean, it's not hundreds, but
it probably
it's not a couple. No,
it's at least a couple dozen. Probably.
Yeah, I think so. But right now, I don't think I have the answer. I don't want to give you much.
Yeah, I can imagine for people that are going down that route, it's a very stressful environment. With a lot
depends
of
on the studio. Depends on how fast you are. Depends on the studio work settle. Depends on which part you're doing. You're the in-betweener. You're the animator. You're doing the layouts. Actually, I skip one person layout. Yeah.
You said a little while back that now when you watch anime, you can't turn off your analytical brain, and you noticed like the double line on Attack on Titan, for example, and so on. What's it like now for you to watch a Ghibli movie or another anime? Are you able to enjoy them as just a viewer, or are you always?
I think I just realized something. I've never seen it as just a viewer. Remember, I always draw. I never stopped. So the thing is, before I look at the drawing and characters moving, and I would say, "Oh, someone put a pencil on a paper and draw a character." Now we go on, and as I grew, I learned more things. Oh, someone put shadows in a character because light. Oh, there's perspective. So that's the highlight. So every time as I grow in the industry and as a human, basically, I see new things in animation. So obviously now that I work in the industry directly and I do drawings that actually appear on people's screens, I know much more. So there's so many more things for me to notice. But I guess my brain was never turned off. I was always looking at, oh, the noise is pointy in this place. Oh, but they have like a round nose there. So I was always noticing things.
What are some of the things now that when you watch something new that comes out are like amazing for you? Like, oh, wow, this is new. This is like original. This is, they kind of maybe not breaking the rules, but innovating a little bit.
Oof. I would say, maybe not exactly replying to your question, but I recently saw the last movie from Ghibli. And
The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, The Boy and the Heron. And it was interesting for me to notice that they integrated a lot of tricks and techniques and elements from other movies. Like, oh, they do this, like in the movie of the plane, like Casino Tachino. They did this background and this scene feels like howls, like floating something. Or, oh, this animal is animating like that. Oh, the heron is speaking, moving the mouth, the beak, but the dialogue is completely different. It's not sync. Oh, it's like Mononoke. So I started to put links together because I studied the other movies. I saw this one with the other eyes of like, they did this before. They did that other one before. Oh, this is new. Oh, they improved that one because now they put 3D, but it looks good.
That's super interesting.
So I was like, oh. So I could not turn off and just see the story. I keep like, oh, that background is like, damn it. So
you've probably got an infinite amount of materials to watch and to study from.
Yeah, I cannot get everything.
Are there some classic animes that every animator needs to study and go through? That it's, like if you become a film student, you have to watch, I don't know, Stanley Kubrick or the classics of cinema for animators as a like.
I will challenge that question.
Okay.
Because it upsets me.
All right.
Because there are so many people that tells me you have to watch this, you have to watch that, you have to watch this. And I have so much amount of time in my life. I need to do so many drawings in my life. And animation is also about enjoying your time, right? So yes, it is worth your time a lot. There's some movies, some series that if you watch, they will enlighten you, but you don't have to watch the whole thing. You can only watch the scene that they recommended you. You can also not watch it because, as you said, there's so much. And at some point, it gets tedious. Like, for example, they tell me, Cowboy Bebop is so good. You know what? I get stressed out with jazz, like music. So luckily, I watched Cowboy Bebop when I was a teen, and because I watched anything that was on TV in that moment. So I have that experience. But now they will tell me, oh, you have to watch Jujutsu Kaisen. And I'll be like, I'll try one episode. I didn't even finish it. The story didn't catch me. It's like, that's another Bleach, but darker. And I'm like, enough.
You might have a lot of angry fans right now.
I know. The thing is, another friend told me, actually, I think it's worth you because she knows me and what I like. And she put, like, she looked for a scene to show me, like, this is a very cool thing that I think you should see. And that's what will make you push through that beginning to get there. And it was a really cool scene. So, wow. So I'm not saying that there are lots of things that you like, there are lots of things that you could watch that you could learn from. And you must watch each if you want to do something at that level. Yes, but at the same point, your own time, your own enjoyment, it's okay to respect that. I may give Jujutsu Kaisen a try another time because that friend's like, okay, I know you in person. It's not that everyone likes it online, so now you have to watch it because otherwise you're an animator who never watched this, and you, how can you call yourself someone who directs animation? But no, that friend's like, no, I know you. You will enjoy it because this, and that's it. And I was like, okay, now maybe I have a bit more. So from the things I need to watch, I'll watch this.
Do you notice any general trends in the industry, a change in the type and the style of animation? I know that, for example, when we mentioned Demon Slayer came out, it wasn't a revolution, but it kind of
it was a level up.
Yeah, it was quite different in terms of the style of animation, very vibrant. You mentioned before we started recording, like extremely saturated colors.
Yes.
Very thick.
Like very dark, but then they put like super saturated in the middle and explode it and gradients. It's beautiful. Anyway.
So that was quite of a change, right?
Yes.
What are the trends right now? Is this the new direction things are going with new releases, or?
I would say we're going to more complex often over the years. That's nothing new. It's just that keeps happening. And let's say, I'm not sure because I've been watching some new-ish animes, but not necessarily like the most popular. So it's difficult for me to tell you right now a trend, but I would say more complex lines because Attack of Titan happens, because Demon Slayer happens. Like every time that an anime gets to a new level of complexity, the other ones will try to imitate it. And that forces the industry to get to more lines, more colors, more editing, more magic. So if there's a trend that's that, yeah. Right now I cannot tell you much more.
So in a way, Demon Slayer was a trendsetter, so to
it
say.
Was.
Yeah.
It was.
It kind of changed.
And there are more, but right now it doesn't come. Like I know there's something I want to say right now, but it doesn't come to my mind. There's another anime.
The animation and the visual style is one part of the story. The other one is the story itself.
Yes.
What is there anything different in your experience with the way the Japanese animators or writers tell stories as opposed to the West, that you noticed the way they structure an episode, the way they want to convey certain messages?
Okay. By the way, trends, the seasons are shorter now. That's
well, this is the same with TV shows, right?
Yeah.
It used to be 24 episodes, and now it's 8 because nobody has time for 24 episodes.
Well, budget, but they have to do things so complex that they have to put a lot of money into only one episode. So now they have less episodes. I think that's one of the major causes.
Okay.
I could also be the time. I never even thought about that. I was only thinking about productions. Like, of course, if you have to now have like so many lines, well, double lines means less episodes because you have so much time to draw. Double lines, I don't know. This is a very basic mathematics, but yes. Sorry, your question was about
the way the stories are structured or the messages are shared in Japanese animation.
Yes. So the Japanese animation stories, you have to take into consideration that they come from Japanese-speaking people. Now, how Japanese people think and talk, it's not just about the change of language, it's also how they communicate, how they view the world, and so on, right? So obviously, you cannot take out that when you're studying a language, you know that you have to think differently. That's what's different in anime too, how they think and how they transmit that. And to give you, it's just an example, like, for example, let me think of now.
Let's find a good example.
Let's find a good example. So if it was a story in English, like, I don't know, American, someone invites someone out and the other person says, no, thank you. End of the story. If in Japan, someone says, like, let's go out, the other person's like, I don't know, sort of. They say, chotto, the other person will say, okay, they said no, but they could still take it as I could push more, right? As a Japanese viewer, you know that was a very big thing, and the person inviting is actually being pushing and taking advantage that the other person didn't say no. Right? So these are little things that come with language. And I know there will be better examples of this. For example, in a story, again in English, someone in the end, like the happy ending will be that they declare their love. And they say literally, I love you. In anime story, a very Japanese mindset, maybe just that at the end, it looks like they're about to grab each other's hand. And that's a happy ending. It's the same level, and people have been waiting for this, but maybe as a Western viewer, you're like, they're not kissing? Excuse me? I've been here like 3 seasons and they're not even kissing. That's a different way to tell the story. They love each other as much as in American when they tell face-to-face the words. But that just comes from language sometimes.
And then the general story of the structure and how you get to that point also kind of changes, because little moments like the not saying no will lead to a whole side story and an arc that goes to the hand-holding in the end, which would not happen in a typical
in the other
Western.
One. Exactly. So there's that. And there's also, I feel that Western stories are more like beginning, middle, end most of the times, even if it's within one episode, right? They're more conclusive. However, in animation, there's some stories that lose a bit that. They have conflicts, but they don't exactly resolve them, or they have a situation and they don't have a ending to
this
them.
Is the like slice you dislike of life. The most, isn't it?
What?
Without the ending, that's what you dislike the most, isn't it?
Not exactly. Because if it's not dislike. Actually, there's this. I don't know if I know enough of the subject to talk about it, but I'll try. I think it's called hiyashike. Like this anime that more a type that you just realize there's not life or death threatening things. It's just, I think an example is just like there's a witch that goes to Aomori, I don't know, northern Japan. Now someone will be like, the witch goes to northern Japan to live with a cousin, and the episode is like, oh, I just moved, I don't have a
broom.
I don't have a broom. Let's go buy a broom. And they go to the place and she tries it. The coach is like, oh, and she tries it and it bumps her head and goes down. And that's it. There's no big drama. And that's fine because you're just there experiencing something calm with the characters. Which for me, that would be the message and the
message
like
is the atmosphere and the
It's the atmosphere and the feeling, right?
So, we don't really see this so much in Western TV shows.
I don't think so.
Just kind of conveying an atmosphere.
It might just be my bias of what I consume, but I've seen and enjoy more that in the animation industry, where you just have an atmosphere, a setting, and maybe it's calming. And for me, it's like, okay, that's good enough for me. But it can also be a terror thing that there's no ending and it's just upsetting and just suspense after suspense as well. And that would feel also very Japanese to just have this, like very creepy town, and that's it. And you go through stories in this creepy town and you never know if there's a killer or not, if it's a ghost, if it's you. Who knows? That would be also a structure I expect here.
If someone listening to this episode is like interested in animation and has had a dream like yours to become an animator, specifically in Japan, what kind of advice would you give them? What things should they be aware of before kind of making the jump and coming here, maybe going to Senmongako or trying to work directly at the studio?
Okay, so if your goal is to work in Japanese anime, with or without Japan, and like there's different routes, as I mentioned, like animation is one, like actually drawing the characters or moving elements, background, there's production, there's editing. So please first consider there's multiple options that apply to you. If you wanted to animate and draw, please draw every day as much as you can, or if not every day, as many other days as you can. Please sleep, be healthy. Clarification is important. Then, if you want to work in anime in Japan, I would say learning Japanese is not 100% necessary, but it will help you a lot to communicate with your peers and to understand the pipeline. Because also there's a lot of handwriting in the industry, whether it's digital or in paper. And if kanjis are hard, imagine handwritten kanjis by people who's working very fast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand them.
It's like when a doctor writes a note on a paper.
Yeah,
right?
it's like doctor level kanji. That's hard. So please study your Japanese even before coming. Start studying Japanese. Understand how they think. Understand the culture, and try to do on your own. If it's not animation, if it's background, study perspective, study the things that start practicing before going to a school, or take a course, or try to stay in the industry. Because every day, every hour, every moment you put into practice makes you faster and more likely to get a job and then succeed. Because you work fast enough that then it pays enough, and you're also more fulfilled. So don't wait to come to Japan to start your journey.
Maru Exposito, your company, your studio has been running for a few years already. You just completed a big project.
Mm-hmm.
What's next? What are some of the projects you are working on or want to do or that are in the pipeline? Oh, it's all secret.
Yeah.
So let me skip this step and ask, what would be your dream project, something you would love to have the opportunity to work on one day?
Okay. Hopefully, at some point, we'll do originals. I want to do movies. And I'd love to see Windy Lightning, like from my comic. I like to see it in either series or movie, depends on how it evolves. So my babies need to move and speak and breathe and run and do things that will be a spoiler. But
making
we'll
original stories. So we'll have to keep an eye on your work, and we will make sure to link everything down in the description so people can find you and see the really cool animation you've done so far.
Trying. Team effort. Sorry.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story, sharing your experience, sharing your insights into the animation industry. I'm sure there's many more things we could have maybe talked about. Does one of those come to mind? Is there one aspect of your work or something about animation that you would have liked sharing today that I didn't ask about?
Not really, but
we got it all
I don't know now. I could keep speaking about this about hours because I love animation, but nothing that comes to mind. If not, ask in comment section, wherever, maybe I see it, go to links and
we'll reach out to you.
Yeah, I'll keep talking about anime somewhere, so you'll find me.
Mar, thank you. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. This was Unpacking Japan, and we'll be back again next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future conversations. And we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this episode, here are a couple more that we think you'll enjoy. Thanks again for your support, and we'll see you next time.